Safiyya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I have honestly been so excited, but also at the same time, I think going through this conversation and when I anticipated having this conversation with you, it brought up so much of my own journey, and a lot of your experiences have, I guess, touched a nerve with me as well. You know, places that you and Azaylia have had your treatment have been very close to, obviously, and close to where I had it. And we'll go into that a little bit. But I think for me, this conversation is so powerful, not just because of your story, but because it's impacted people's lives, such as mine, when I've read it, in ways that I didn't think were possible, because the stories are so different, but yet there are moments that for me have just really touched back to home to experiences that I've had, but also helped me heal a little bit in a way, and also made me think about purpose and why we're here. And that's why I wanted to start the podcast. And you were asking me before we started this about why I started this show and why I started doing the podcast. And it was to speak to people like yourself that have been through some of the hardest times in their life and come out the other side, finding purpose and also helping people and showing that there is life through trauma and there is life on the other side of that. But not only is that those individuals that make it through that and have built this resilience to help then other people, or then to go on to spread the positivity that you do. And for me, you encompass just what that means is resilience, positivity. And so I want to start, I guess, before we go into the most special parts of your story, by saying that I'm not just interviewing you today, but I'm also interviewing your little girl, Azaylia, who's not here with us in person today, but definitely with us in spirit. So thank you for both of you for coming on here. Before I start getting emotional.
Oh my God, I'm just about to cry before I've even started. How beautiful. What a great intro.
Thank you. Before we get into it, I first want to talk about you, because so much of what you talk about every single day is your little girl, and we will get onto her. But you've said before that being a mother was your greatest achievement, has definitely shaped you and the person that you are today. But I'd love to know who you were and who was Safiyya, and can you describe that person before you became a mother?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on, and that introduction was so beautiful. The way you've just incorporated Azaylia just brought me to tears straight away, just them. So thank you. And thank you for having me on here. And yeah, let's get into it. So who was Safiyya before she was moulded into the woman that I sit here now? I was very relaxed, very carefree. I'd say very motivated, very resilient, and a really strong character. From such a young age, I was brought up in a way where we didn't have the upbringing which probably my mum would have liked to have given us. She worked very hard, and for me, watching her as a youngster really inspired to be as strong and as resilient as what she was. And I think that's helped me grow as a person throughout life. I always had ambition. I was always striving to be better than I was the year before, the month before, the day before. So I was always a person looking for growth and expanding myself as a person. And I feel like throughout that whole journey of me being young and growing up and watching my mum take 4 jobs on and was doing paper rounds as kids to put Sky on, and having them hardships of growing up in an environment where it was domestic violence, and seeing that as a youngster really made me grow up a lot faster than what I should have. And I feel I never blame anybody for that. I look at that as a way that sometimes in life things happen, and it's what we do and how we grow and evolve as a person of how we get through them traumas, even at that point.
I really feel that. I think so, kind of similar situation to you, but I grew up with a single mom, and my mom just worked relentlessly. And the person that I am today is primarily because of her. Like, she's my absolute idol. Like, not only through the things that we have been through since I've been young, but especially watching her when I was a little kid, and the things that she's been through, the experiences that she's had, and the way that she raised me, not having a clue what she was doing being a young parent, but just utmost doing her best every single day and wanting to be better for me. I think I just see that, and there's a part of me that when you see that so young, I think you just have aspirations to be like, this is sort of who I want to be in life. And I think that I relate to that on so many levels of just watching that mother figure in your life just working relentlessly and being like, that's the key to success, like that's the key to being better, because you put that person on a pedestal and you go, that person's giving me joy and happiness and is giving me the ability to live my life. And now I want to sort of do the same. And in a way, do you feel like then you want to give back to your mum, like sort of through, or give back, I guess, to people through your hard working and your ethic? And I guess, is that something that you see as you can give back by working hard?
I think from working hard, it allows me to not only show myself that I can do something, and when you've come from hardships, and you look visually at the things that are around you, I always believe in the law of attraction. And for me, it was understanding from a young age that things are put out there in the universe to allow us to strive and to grow and achieve things. And if these things weren't visible, then how would we know that they're there for us to work towards?
So it sounds like then, from sort of your upbringing and just the person that you sort of were when you were younger, prior to becoming a mom, was very much the catalyst into you actually being able to get through what you went through then when you became a mom. And I want you to talk a little bit about through, I guess, that moment that you find out you were pregnant and then going on to have Azaylia, and talk about through, I guess, that period of finding out that your mum and how excited you were about that, and then very, very early days. Because when I go on your Instagram, I see, your birthday is about 5 days after Azaylia's, isn't it? And you just look so happy as a family, and just that joy on your face that you've become a mother. And talk about that through that.
So obviously, myself and Ashley decided to have a child. And that was a big thing for me because of growing up and not having that stability. Don't get me wrong, I have got my stepdad in my life from such a young age, and he did play the father figure role to me. But it was always a big thing to me to always make sure that my child had a dad that was going to love and protect throughout their whole life. That was my main concern. And having Ashley and having a partner and really making that decision, I was 30. So it's kind of like I've waited a long time for this. And finding out Ashley wanted to have a child sooner than what I would. Usually it's the woman, isn't it? Like, oh my God, I don't want to have a child. But I think I was very reserved in that area because of so much like hidden trauma and upset that I got inside. It came to the point where we ended up trying. We was trying for Azaylia, and then just one day, I was just feeling really sicky. I was on the beanbag. Ashley was saying to me, like, "Why don't you go and take a pregnancy test?" And I was like, I don't need a pregnant, like I'm not pregnant. It's just cold outside. I'm tired and I've not had enough sleep. Do you know that kind of thing that you kind of blame it on? And then he was like, no, do a pregnancy test. Do you know, to the point where I'd take I'd have one of them apps. I had the app, do you know, where I was tracking everything, and then realising when you're fertile and when's this and when's that. And then the next minute it was just like, do you know, when we literally just was like, oh my God, it's going to happen when it happens, rather than being so regimented. And then we went to the shop, got a pregnancy test, to the point where, I'm not even joking you, I like peed on the stick and then I just left it on the side, and then it was just like, he was like, oh, you're going to go and check it? And normally I'd be sat there, as a woman, you sit there and you're just like, oh my God, you're waiting for like, is it one line or have we got two lines? What the hell is going on? Anyway, he's come, he went into the back. I went, oh, you go and have a look. Normally I'm so like, oh my God, I'm like, I need to see. And because I was so adamant that I wasn't, he'd come out of the bathroom, and we was living in an apartment at this time, and he came out of the apartment, like bathroom, and they literally come in and he was like, you are? And I was like, shut up. I was like, you're lying, because I haven't gone and looked at it, and he's come out with it, and he's like, yeah, you are. And because he was the one that was like, I think that you should get a pregnancy test, I just thought, oh, here we go, Mr. Know-it-all. Like, coming in,
kind of don't want him to be right.
Next minute he's come in, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, we literally celebrated. until early hours in the morning. Obviously, I was on like pop, and he'd gone to the shop and got drinks, and like we was dancing, and it was so incredible. It was, Azaylia was wanted, she was welcome, she was brought in, like being like welcomed into the world with so much love and abundance.
Yeah. And what I found, actually thinking back, and part of all this story, I thought back and I was actually looking at the date that you had Azaylia, and you had her through COVID, which, thinking back now, and I think back to that time and what we were all doing and being at home and being in lockdown, what was your experience of going through sort of your pregnancy and then giving birth like through that as well?
So I actually felt like, how was I feeling? I feel like I got to the point where I was really, really excited and over the moon. And then I felt like, oh, I don't get to have a baby shower. Oh, I can't go out shopping and get all the things that I really want to get. Oh, which pram do I get? Oh, I'd like to go into the shops and like pick it and choose it and wheel it around and like have them moments being able to do them things. And it was like I suddenly felt robbed of my pregnancy, to think that I'm not actually getting that experience of, I love going to hit the shops. Like, I'm just such a sucker. Like, put me in B&M and I'll be there all day. But I'm like, I want to go out. I want to go and buy a baby grow and all of these kind of things. Obviously, it was lockdown, and I actually, obviously, with all the hormones and everything that's going on, it actually felt like I felt secluded, like everybody else did. I felt like worried. I didn't know, like the hospitals were telling me, don't go into the hospital until you're literally about to give birth. And I thought, well, I don't want to sit in the hospital by myself, so I'm literally going to wait for the last thread because I'm like 5 minutes down the road. So it was all quite difficult, really. I'd probably say, like, being pregnant in COVID, felt like I wanted to share more experiences or have more conversations with people coming to visit me and prepare me. And I was actually in COVID painting Azaylia's bedroom. And then we'd not long moved into a house that we'd moved into the area, like more closer to family. I was painting the rooms, painting the living room. I was literally nesting and like trying to just create Azaylia's bedroom, so it was really girly. And then it was beautiful to be able to experience that.
Yeah, and then you give birth to her on the 10th of August, and I mean, just the photos of her when those photos you put on and going back to your Instagram back then, you just all look so happy, and she's just absolutely perfect. And most recently, my fiance and Jude and I announced that we're having a baby, and just even in the process of this pregnancy, I'm so excited for that point that we get to meet our little one, and I can just imagine like the love that you have at that stage, just absolutely unconditional. Like there's nothing that breaks that. Even I feel that at this stage, so let alone when she was out.
People kept saying to me, you're never going to feel love like you feel for your child when they're here. Wait, because I'm like, no, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. And boy, when Azaylia was here, I was like, I actually feel like I was very good. Like I gave Azaylia to my mom, to Ashley's mom, so they could experience very early on being grandparents and stuff like that. And it is so beautiful, and you don't ever have a love for your child. Like you never felt love when you're with your partner and you feel like, oh my gosh, I love you. Nah.
No, nothing compares.
No.
And I can imagine, like, obviously we're going through COVID, global pandemic going on. I can imagine that you're worried about things like COVID. I can imagine you worried about things about maybe her getting ill, you getting ill, things like that. But I can never imagine you thinking that your newborn child would end up being diagnosed with having leukemia just 8 weeks after she was born. Yeah. Can you talk us through, because you've been so incredible in speaking about early detection of cancer and speaking about the very early signs that Azaylia had. And can you just talk to listeners on the show, because there might be first-time parents like myself that genuinely, when I heard this, and I've never really tuned in, I guess, to things like this before then going through this experience that we're going through now of becoming mums, and because you just don't think that some of the symptoms that she was having would be cancer.
Yeah.
So can you just talk through sort of what you were seeing in the first few weeks?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that we talk on this as well, because going through having your scans and things like this, never once in your mind do you ever think that cancer is something that I should be looking out for, especially in an infant. And you change your baby's nappy continuously. They're always, I'm OCD as well. So when that line comes on the nappy, I'm like, change the nappy, like she needs to be clean. And then later on in the evening, I've seen, actually, let's start with the early signs. So at 6 weeks, they'll have another doctor's checkup. But before that, at like 4 weeks, it was Azaylia. I'd done, what did we do? I was breastfeeding her, and then she was crying and crying and crying. So there was like, oh, okay, maybe give her a bottle as well. Maybe she needs extra top up. So then I was giving her a bottle, and then it was like she couldn't breathe properly. So then they were saying, oh, okay, she's probably got like a cold type symptoms. This is very normal in babies. Then her tongue became very white. So she had thrush all on her tongue.
Wow.
Then I gone back to the doctors again, and then they gave me some drops to clear her tongue up. So the tongue were being cleared up. And then I ended up getting, I can't even remember what they're called now, the bottles where it stops the colic. And I got the colic drops, and then the bottles to stop colic. So I got absolutely everything to the point as a new mother, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of that I wasn't prepared for. Then it was, she couldn't have Calpol because she was too young. You can't have a Calpol until I think it was 8 weeks. So we couldn't give her no Calpol. Then we had to give her the bright water. And then it was to the point where she wasn't going to the toilet. So then I had to give her laxatives. So all of these things I was giving to her and going to the doctors for. Obviously a record was being made of everything that she was having, and different, like the milk that we were trying. So we were trying absolutely everything. And to the point where she was sitting there and it was just like her eyes were bunged and her nose were bunged. Do you know, like when you've got really bad cold and you just like, but I thought, oh, because she's a baby, like that's going to be normal because as adults. And the doctor didn't have no concern either. Just said it was all based down to because she's a newborn. To the point then I'm coming home, got nothing that I'm worrying about because I'm just thinking, okay, like this is going to pass. Next minute, I come home and I see that there is a bruise in the inside of her groin. And my background is aesthetics, so I inject. And part of that process is understanding if you get necrosis and you get these different things that are going on when you inject, like of knowing what to do. So I just automatically put my finger over the bruise, and there was a lump behind the bruise. It's only like a dot. I mean, she's only tiny anyway. It was a dot. And then where the bruise was, where I run my finger across it, the lump was under it. That was initial alarm bell for me in my head as a practitioner, where I thought something's not right here. Anyway, because she was having a colic and like her tummy was upset, everyone was bouncing her a lot, which was like soothing her. You know, like when you're bouncing a baby, they like it. So I thought, oh, maybe somebody's kind of held her and just been bouncing her. That was before I put my finger over it. But and also prior to that, just moments before, I was kind of doing videos and pictures. I've always been that person. It's always been like capturing the moment.
I bet you're glad you did now, like just having those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed that there was mottling on her skin. So, you know, like when you get cold and you have like patching on your skin. I couldn't see it with my eye, but I could see it with the camera. So the camera was picking it up. And then I was looking at it like that. And then I was putting the camera in front of it and there was mottling, then there wasn't. And then I took a picture of it and then I did a video of it. And then after that, that's when I was like running my finger over the bruise and checking. Basically, then the next day, hospital. What is it, next day? Next day, my mum was actually looking after Azaylia. Me and Ashley were going to Manchester. Mum was like, oh, it's my time to look after Azaylia now. You and Ashley have some quality time together. And me and Ashley like went off to Manchester. He had some work to do over there. So we just spent some time together. And then basically my mum had the doctor had rang back after I'd emailed them to say you need to take Azaylia to A&E. But in the meantime, when I dropped Azaylia to my mum's, my mum had actually decided to take Azaylia down to A&E. She worked in the hospital at the time, so it was just her instinct to think, do you know what, let me just go and take her down just to double check everything's okay. And then we got catapulted into hospital to get the news of Azaylia's got leukemia, cutting a long story short in that point.
Yeah. And that was at Birmingham Children's Hospital, was it?
So we initially got rushed to, she initially got rushed to Walsgrave. Okay. And then once they'd run all of their tests and me and Ashley were back from Manchester, we then took over to Birmingham Children's Hospital,
because that's where I was admitted. So when I woke up in 2012 and was paralysed, that's when I got rushed in and I went to Birmingham Children's Hospital. So I have my own experience, just like you guys in Birmingham Children's, how incredible they are there. And I often drive past now when I go home and I go see my family, and when I drive past I think about myself and that time during there, because I was in for such a long period of time. Me and my mum lived there. I talk about you, hear about you and Ashley talking about, you know, when it's like your second home. And it is, I think, when you spend prolonged periods of time in hospital, there's a part of you that's still in that place.
Absolutely.
And I can just, when I was listening to parts of your story and especially talking about Birmingham Children's, for me that hit straight to home, because I remember my own experience in there and being a young kid, and I remember most importantly my mum. And when I hear parts of your story and I hear sort of the feelings and the emotions that you had, I relate a lot to how I saw my mum through my eyes. And obviously I was 13, so obviously a lot older than what Azaylia was, but I remember seeing my mum, and I remember when I first got admitted into hospital, and I remember your mum is always the person you turn to be your rock, to be that like, emotional support in your life. And she's always the person that goes, it will be okay. And I remember when I first went into hospital, them turning around and saying, we don't really know what's wrong with Lauren, but we think it might be X, Y, and Z. We might need to prepare for surgery. We don't know whether she's going to have lasting damage. And on the actual evening that I went into hospital, they came back and they diagnosed me with what I have now, my spinal cord injury. And I had an autoimmune disease, so my antibodies attacked my spinal cord, which left me with damage, leaving me in a chair. And I remember in that moment, and the doctors told my mum first, and I remember them telling her, and I remember that very moment, because I remember her walking back over and I remember looking at me and there was just like this fear in her eyes. And I remember that's the first time I'd ever seen my mum fearful, really. Like every other time she absolutely had it. But that one moment when she walked back over and I went, what's happening? She didn't know. She didn't know what the trajectory of my life looked like. She didn't know what was going to happen within the next 6 months. And I can imagine similar for you, that I guess when Azaylia was diagnosed then, there was that moment of being like, I don't know what comes next for her.
Absolutely. And what an incredible woman your mum is, the fact that she's there. I almost feel emotional.
Take a minute.
To hear you speak as her child, so lovely. Because it is, you do protect, Azaylia couldn't speak, but her energy was something that you would always want to protect. But obviously, because you could speak, it's just so relatable, you know, like to know that we'd never had to have them conversations, and like what a strong woman your mum is, you know, like to think to even put together, but for you to see her face. And know your own instinct that it's difficult. Sorry, what was your question again? I'm like,
no, just that, I guess that moment of what you, I guess when you first got that diagnosis with Azaylia and sitting there, I guess what was I bet there was a part of you in that moment that was going, I don't know what happens here. But I instantly saw in my mum there was a switch. She went, I don't know what happens here, but we get through it together. And I can imagine, and the way you talk, and you're so open and honest throughout sort of your social media, but every time you speak, you're so authentic in going, I'm sort of scared, but at the same time, we do it together. And you sort of found that strength.
I didn't understand what was going on, if I'm honest. In that actual moment, all I just thought is, we'll get this sorted. We'll get this sorted. The first thing is, right, okay, there's something, I don't understand what it is. They're running 100 million tests on postpartum as well. I've just had a baby. I've just had an emergency C-section. And then I'm catapulted into this. So my head is all over the place. I'm fully scrambled, not collective at all. And all I just thought in that moment was, I just need to keep being a mom to Azaylia. I've got no control about what's going on around me, but I need to make sure that she has got every last little thing that I can give to her.
And I think it is. It's that. It's sort of that instinctive nature, but I don't think all moms necessarily go to the lengths that you have gone to or my mum has gone to.
Absolutely.
You have to have an element within you that is resilient enough to go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get through it and I'm going to be that rock for her.
Yeah.
And I think that there's part of that shines through in your resilient nature and in your personality, that was the immediate part your brain goes to is that we're going to get through this and we're going to fight and we're going to help. And I remember watching back and some of your first posts you did on Instagram were, we're going to fight this and she's going to fight this. And it's just so powerful because not everybody's in that place to have that fight in them.
Do you know, like when you're your own person, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
And because from such a young age, I've had so much drive and so many obstacles I've had to overcome to get greater understanding of myself. I think at that point, I don't realise I'm being strong. I don't realise I'm being brave. Only now, years later, am I just now starting to reflect and realise that. But through them times I'm around different children and other parents that are suffering. And I started recognising that I was different. I'd probably say different in terms of mindset. It was COVID anyway, and you have to swap over, or there's mothers on the wards and things like that, and they'd have like a group chat and things like that. I didn't involve myself in any group chats. I isolated myself in my own bubble solely because I didn't want to hear the noise of what was going on around me because I was frightened. Not because I didn't want to speak to so-and-so or so-and-so. It was because this is petrifying me and I need to stay in this channel, because once I start talking, and I was realising that the mothers were turning to each other for support and I was just in my zone, like, hi, morning, like or I'd give something to the other children, like toys or a hairband or something. And it was then when I was realising, a lady came up to me as I was swapping over with Ashley, and she came and said to me, my child is in intensive care at the moment and I watch how you always dress Azaylia in her outfits. And I just want to say that my child was laying there, I think, for 2 weeks. And I hadn't obviously like changed in new clothes, but I hadn't done anything because of where I was. And the way you've done Azaylia's environment of how poorly she is, it's made me want to go and do it for my child. So thank you for that. And I thought in my head at the time, I thought, but how could you not? How could you not? Like, yeah. And then that's when I'm recognising I'm different in how I cope. I like the scene when she opens her eyes. She can't talk, but I want her to see pretty lights.
Yeah.
I want her to see teddies at the end of her cot. I don't want her just to concentrate on syringes and beepers and all of these kind of things. I want to create that environment which is wholesome.
Create that home from home feel.
Absolutely.
And it leads me to my next question, because some people may say, well, why choose to share Azaylia's story from the beginning? You shared it in real time with people and you shared a story with the absolute world. And some people say, why did you choose to share it? How did you get through that?
Good question. I shared Azaylia because, like other people have their children at home, going to the park, playing with their toys at home, sharing their posts and their pictures and the outfits and the first steps and the crawls and the foods and everything that all parents decide to choose to share. Mine was just in a different setting. And I was so proud of Azaylia that although this was our journey, because it felt like home, I was just being natural. I was just being a natural mother. I'm proud of her. Okay, she's got a tube going up her nose. Okay, she's on a machine. But look, she's smiling today. Look, she's playing with her. Yeah.
She's a very happy baby considering the circumstances.
And I think it was because of everything that it wasn't like, oh my God, guys, we're going through this journey. Like let me take you with me. And it wasn't like, come with me through hospital and the journey of my child. I genuinely was doing it. So I was sharing what, like I said, even when I was younger,
mums, yeah.
I was just taking pictures and I was doing things. And I was just being a normal mum and proud of her daughter. And bit by bit, the nation was holding on, realising, seeing, and it was growing and it was growing. But because I've always stayed so true to who I am as a person and not changed in terms of, okay, there's a following or there's an outreach somewhere or there's this. I'm so grounded in who I am as a person that when you are just you, people love you. People were loving Azaylia because she was her. It was just effortless. Love that was just radiating so much.
Yeah, and people really did. I mean, you see that at a funeral, like people that came out.
I call it Azaylia's Day, just to say that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I call it Azaylia's Day, because people will be confused sometimes and they'll say, I don't use any of them words like Azaylia's garden. I don't use any of your cliche words that you'll use for passing to the other side. I use it in a way where her day is her day. It's like your birthday. Your birthday, right? And then you've got a day when you pass to the other side. So I call it Azaylia's Day.
Yeah, so that's beautiful. No, thank you for correcting me on that, because I think it's so important that we talk open and honestly about how we should talk about these things and the reasons why.
And it's
why
a different way as well, because, you know, like there's such a... I've had to get my head in a mindset of being able to talk about it in the way I have, or my own mind to just feel rested a little bit, that I call it different things. And it's like people around me were calling it the word that you did.
Yeah.
And I kept correcting them. No, it's Azaylia's Day.
That's good.
It's Azaylia's Day. Or it's Azaylia's Garden, to the point where family, you know, for years and years you use them words because that's all you know. And suddenly I'm like, Azaylia's Day.
Yeah.
Azaylia's Garden.
And it's important because it's in similar ways that me now having a disability, I didn't grow up with having a disability. I didn't know, but you would use certain terms of terminology that now I would never use. I now would never, as a disabled person, I'd be thinking, well, why do you say that? Like, it's just not appropriate. And it is hard, like when you're in that situation. I think it's good for us to have like good, open, honest conversation, but also to think about things differently, to think about actually the things that we've been saying for a very long period of time are still, you know, actually are quite negative in the way we say them. And like by you saying it's like her day, it makes you see that very differently. And I think there's like real beauty within that. So thank you. Like I really appreciate you and I think it's important that we correct each other to make sure that we are also giving light to the positive element around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
I think it's healthy. Like I really think it's healthy when we are able to, that may help you at some point in your life. It may help someone else that's listening today of how do I deal with it, or how do I look at this, or how do I look at it differently. So it's the fact that one little thing helps me, because when I hear that word, I'm like, oh, it scares me.
Yeah.
Frightens me.
Yeah, it's the framework and how we see that in our minds. And I 100% think that's so important in our journey of becoming resilient people, but also managing the sort of ebbs and flows of life and what the difficult times we face. Sometimes it's the way you think about something or the way you phrase things that can make the most important difference.
It's the language in which we use that can really help comfort somebody in a softer, more gentle way.
And like many sort of tough times in life, it often isn't just the once you get knocked down, it's several times that you have to keep taking blows. I know for myself, after I went through my initial part of my disability, I came home and I rehabilitated into normal life, and then I had to go back into hospital. And it wasn't just a straightforward journey. It wasn't just, okay, you're better now. It was sort of time and time again. And I know you went through that journey with Azaylia, and we saw that as the public. I remember just watching it myself. I mean, even listening to the story, taking myself back to, I remember what I was doing on days where these things in your life were happening to me. And I remember sort of that time when you got told with Azaylia that she needed further treatment. And there's that beautiful video on your Instagram of Azaylia ringing the bell. Yeah. And you'd manifested it and you'd been speaking about it for so long. But there was also that really harsh reality, like with so many journeys in medical terms, or medical journeys, where you think you get through one part, and unfortunately the next part comes, and you had that with Azaylia of being told that actually 10 minutes before she was due to ring that bell, she actually, her the cancer had come back and started affecting differently. And I just love that moment still, though, that you put on there of that video of ringing that bell, because
that wasn't going to happen though either. Like we got the fact that we got told 10 minutes before was like our world just collapsed underneath us, you know, to the point where me and Ashley actually got up that day and we got ourselves ready and we got ourselves dressed smart. He'd been living in shorts and tees, and I'd been living in twin sets that are just stretchy and comfortable. And that day we actually got ourselves ready as a family together to go and celebrate her ringing the bell, to the point where the family were going to come down and everything. And then when we got told, it absolutely shattered us. But me and Ashley both sat in that room and looked at Azaylia and thought, but she did... In one weekend, she got over 80,000 people on the bone marrow register. Yeah. That's like the biggest record to date. Like, she's such an incredible little girl. And she did get her donor. She did graft to her donor, and she was 100% donor. So if we'd have been told a couple of days before, she would have been ringing that bell. So she did do all of them things. She did come that far. So we decided that, no, she did do that. So let's give her the opportunity to go and ring that bell, because she deserves it.
For me, it's such a beautiful video, because it seems like, to me, it's almost like a moment where you watch it and you realise this is you collectively as a family going, this is the moment where we enter the next chapter. Absolutely. And we've combated this one, and now we find like the strength to go through the next one. And for me, I see that in terms of the experiences I've been through, and going with me and my mum going, okay, now we go on to the next one. And we find the strength within ourselves. But to have the strength in that moment to sit there and as well the nurses around you, the team around you, the community around you, what seems so powerful in this story is the people and the community that you had around you was just phenomenal.
Unbelievable. When I say that humanity was restored back in me because of Azaylia and her journey, each and every person that I bump into, that I see, I always take that time, no matter if I'm rushed or I'm busy, to say thank you so much. Whether it was a share, whether it was a donation. I mean, in just 3 hours, Azaylia had raised over £1 million for a treatment abroad. And each and every person out there that had donated, like, I'm so grateful that the community come together. I felt like we had solidarity. We had like a full army behind us, and I felt that, like, even though I was in that room by myself with Azaylia, I felt that army. There was mothers out there that were helping me by sending things like teething rings for Azaylia, or things that she could put fruit in, things that I don't even know about. Like, I'm catapulted. All I'm surrounded by is a medical world. You know, I don't know what I've got to do here or here, but people were noticing because I was posting things what Azaylia could need, and they were helping me on that journey. And I'm so grateful, and like the beauty amongst our community and how it's been able to help people's mental health, how people have actually appreciated what they do have in this world, things that they've just shown that they didn't appreciate. There's been relationships that have come to my front door where I've had grown men crying on our front door to say how much they, like, because of Azaylia, it's kept their family together.
Wow.
Because of Azaylia, a couple have decided to have a child. Like, why are they waiting? Like, the story, the couple, there was a lady that contacted me to say that multiple people actually that was about to commit suicide. And that is like a big thing to actually read, to know that Azaylia and her journey has helped keep them here on earth, because they actually found it within them that life is bigger. We should be grateful for our life, and because of her journey, it's helped them stay here on earth and to plug in. And if that little baby can do it, then what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. And I think when we come back to that earlier question of why share her story, that's why.
There we go.
Like, it's a powering story. It's a power in seeing things as well. Like, and through the way you and Ash have combated, like, what you have been through. It's showing that this can happen, but this is how you can go through it and it still be something that is positive. It's still celebrating.
And I think it's showing as well. You can either look at the glass half empty or you can look at the glass half full. And it's always in them moments as you think something bad is happening to you. Like now, I look and I think my life feels empty, but I wake up and I show gratitude. I wake up and show gratitude for the health. It's the biggest gift of life is your health. So although you may be sitting there and you may think this is going wrong, that's happening. If you've got your health, you're winning. If you've got a roof over your head and you've got your children in your arms and to put a roof over their head, you're winning. So everything else you can deal with. You've got options. It's how hard you want to push yourself. And even if you are at rock bottom, like the amount of times I felt like I was crawling through hell, they're the times where you take baby steps. You take them tiny, tiny little steps and you watch yourself grow. Put a drop in and a drop in and a drop in. If it takes 2 years, if it takes 3 years, watch how far you can come. You build layers back to you as an individual, and I'm sure that you have as well on your journey. And by building them layers, it makes you stronger. And sharing Azaylia's journey is so moving and so powerful because no matter if you didn't go through her journey, you've gone through a journey of your own. And even if it's a relationship breakup, you're going through a journey, right, where your mental health feels affected. But it's believing in yourself. And it's by believing in yourself, you can grow and elevate as a person.
I think you should host this podcast, to be honest, because honestly, like that's just the way I feel about life, and why I wanted to share stories such as yours and talk to people like you, because the way of thinking that you have is what ultimately gets us to where you are now. Somebody that is seeing what they've been through and going, it's still a blessing that I'm here today, and that using it now is your purpose. And you talk about that so much, and this is what I want to go on to next, is talking about the positive things that come out of tragic things that happen, but also what you've done since, because not many people can go through what you've been through and then use it to help other people. And I guess that big moment of you and Ashley starting the Azaylia Foundation, which, I mean, honestly is reading about what you do, what you've given back, how you help people, has not only saved lives, but I guarantee you will have brought families closer together. It will have helped save families and just keep them together, as you've said, but also impacted in people in ways that you probably never thought were possible through setting it up. And just talk to me a little bit about that community that you've brought together and using Azaylia, and almost her is now your purpose in this world to help other people going through similar situations.
So we don't have Azaylia to now raise on this earth here. However, having Azaylia's foundation is a place where we can pour that pain into to watch it grow. It's like watching her grow up. And it was a starter of, we know that we need to give back. The help, support, the love that held us so tightly through our whole journey was like more than words could ever describe how much we appreciate it. And we knew that we needed to give back. And it come to that point where we decided, after Azaylia not being able to take that treatment abroad and raising so much funds through the GoFundMe, is to actually start a foundation and make it so we can help other children and families that we've gone, basically what we've gone through. We want to give back and help them that are still out there fighting. And obviously myself and Ashley, we was never charity people on a board, or we didn't understand the infrastructure and how you put anything together. So not only have we just lost our daughter, you're drowning in grieving in so much pain. You're trying to execute it somewhere. Where do you pour that? And having the Azaylia Foundation, it took like a few teething errors to know what to do, or how do you outreach, or how do you set it up, and how do you do all of these things. But slowly but surely, we got that together. We got the structure together. We got it together where we, childhood cancer is the biggest killer of children in the UK and receives less than 3% of funding. And because it's considered to be rare, that's why there's no funding from our government. It's a no-brainer for us. We started it to advance early diagnosis, bring new treatments to the UK. We're now doing PhDs for education, which is just phenomenal because we're working closely with Birmingham Children's Hospital, the universities, Oxford University, and many, many more. And be able to create an Azaylia network where we're bringing all of the education together. I'm trying to say it as clearly as it is so people will understand like the structure of it. It's all different institutions. We're bringing all of these together. We're creating this network so there's clear communication through the whole system so we can come together, we can put in more and more towards childhood cancer.
It's just, honestly, I have no words for what you are doing, and I don't like to speak. I hate the word inspirational because I really do, because it gets thrown away my way so much, and inspiration point is literally like my worst enemy. But what you do is just so powerful, and like I can't thank you enough. I'm not even somebody who has been affected by what you've been affected by in the same way, and I just can only imagine the impacts that you are having, but also as well to really like bring awareness as well, because it's not just one thing trying to raise the money, doing all the challenges that you and Ashley do, like, and it's also bringing the awareness to it, speaking about the trauma that you've been through. It's hard.
Yeah, like I actually go through, I go to schools as well up and down the country. So the whole of the UK gets covered. I do a Wear Orange for Azaylia. This came from a place of pain. My biggest pain is being around children. The one thing that I really wanted to do is watch Azaylia go through school. One of the things, my future's been robbed. What I did is I sat with that pain and I came up with a non-uniform day going into schools. It's very painful for me to go and do that, but I wanted to bring the children to support the children in a way. So I thought, right, let's go and do a non-uniform day. It's a dual purpose. The children are going to the school, teach kindness, mutual support and inclusivity, and do assemblies. They have a beautiful day where they wear orange and they're playing and then baking cakes and making cookies. They have a really, really lovely day. And it's about when another child's light is out and how another child's light candle is lit. They can take their candle over and light the other child's candle. Just because it's out, it doesn't mean that we can't relight it and show light and spread light everywhere. So I kind of go in and do that message for the children, but at the same time, it's got a dual message for the teachers and for the parents about childhood cancer and the reason why we're doing the Wear Orange. So it's a really, really powerful movement. And this year we relaunched it again with Fern Cotton on Good Morning Britain. And the movement that we had the year before, I only thought I would probably get like 2 or 3 schools. So I was sat there and I was just like, what is my purpose? What can I do? And being able to bring all them schools together, all them parents and teachers, it's just been phenomenal.
It just is, and I hope anybody that is a teacher or is in charge of a school that is listening to this get on board with it, because it brings huge awareness, because it can affect any of us at any point. And I think that when I often talk about like people being like allies, and it's not necessarily about being an ally, it's about that this could affect any of us and you could be affected at some point.
At any time, the amount of DMs that I get through people saying, oh, what's your journey? And I can't believe that now this is my journey. And also thank you so much for creating that awareness, because I no longer feel alone. And I think that's important. You feel alone, you feel isolated. You don't know how you're going to be received by society because you feel it's different, or you're not going to be able to do the things that you were doing before. And I think looking at your future as well, it's a very scary thing, like for me especially, and for you as well, living a different life. It's a scary thing of knowing how to, or what you're going to feel deprived of. And for me, it's not only just losing Azaylia, it's losing my future. Watching other people take their children to school, non-uniform days, Christmases, Halloween, Easters, all of these occasions, and just general day to day, it's just my future was there ready to be a mother, and now it's been taken away from me, and I need to figure that out.
And I think that's sort of the final thing that I want to come on to, is because like purpose is one part of resilience and identity is another part of that. Like who we are and our identity to different communities and to who we are and what makes us up is really, really important to our resilience. It's important to how we develop as people and get through difficult times. And identity is a huge part of that, because becoming a mum is your identity, still is your identity. You know, you still are Azaylia's mum. And do you think that, you know, that role as being a mother has really shaped you into being a really resilient person now?
Absolutely. The place where I be a mum to Azaylia is here every day. I just chat to her. I chat to her like I'm in the car and I'm chatting away to her. I've got my tattoo that's literally just like so on my forearm. And that's because when I'm having hard times or when I'm having good times as well, I always look at her and I just think like, we've got this, champ. Yeah. And I just think, do you know what? Being a mother, and I go down to Azaylia's garden and like I always pour everything in around different occasions. And every day I go down, at the minute I'm cleaning the leaves away, I put her fresh flowers down. She's had a candle since the day she's passed away. So it's always been lit. And Christmas time I always go and decorate it and just decorate it Christmassy. Always buy her a present every Christmas. So I include her in everything. And her anniversaries, I always make it so it's just heavenly at a garden. It's, again, when I was in hospital, it's the environment in which you're in. So I like to show that back to the universe. So where she's watching down, that she can see that, oh, it's like her room. Or if I go down, sometimes I'll just pull up and I'll go, oh, have you made a mess for me to clean up again? And I actually laugh and I'm like, oh, you made a mess for me to clean up again. It's what you would be saying as a parent when you're going into your kid's bedroom and you're like, bloody hell, like, gotta clean this crap up again, do you know? And it's kind of like I do things in different ways. And I think it's really, really molded me into a person that I am. I even say thank you to the people at Azaylia's garden that are around her for looking after her. It's a really, really crazy place where I've had to put my mind. But as a mother, you want to always know that your child is okay and is rested and they're fine. So I just parent such a different way, but it really has shaped me into the woman I am now. I'm so mindful. I'm not the woman that I was before. I feel like before pregnancy, I don't know who she is, but she was wild. She was a wild character and I didn't understand purpose. I did understand it, but I mean, I didn't implement it in my life. I didn't really, truly have gratitude for what I should have. And it's the little things that now I have the most gratitude for. And the big things, I just think they come and go.
Yeah. And I think that's so beautiful. I think when you sort of talk and you say like you're feeling lonely and you felt quite isolated at points and still do at parts of sort of your grieving journey as parts of your day-to-day life now. But what really speaks in volumes to me is that we talk about grief when we lose people and those people are no longer there and our identities since they have gone. And it's almost like they're far removed from that. But what I feel like when I hear and I talk to you is that she's there absolutely every single day in a very real and alive sense to you in terms of just how you communicate with her. And that in a way is a really beautiful way to see grief and to know that identity never changes. It just grows into something very different for you. And I think that there's, for me, you know, as somebody that has been through their own form of grief, but I see that very differently, like listening to you here and talk there, because it's not something that you have to be removed from. It's something that you can live through with that person. And I know that you've said before about, and speaking on the Azaylia Foundation, that you can't watch Azaylia take steps here on earth, but the foundation's like seeing your daughter grow up. And I still think that there's just something so beautiful within that, is that she's got a voice through you, through Ashley, but through the foundation and through all the children that you are helping. And there's something that I don't know what you would necessarily call it, but that voice and that purpose that she has here, she's working miracles.
Absolutely. We had a little boy that we actually helped called Yuvraj, and he was in this one moment that I had in hospital with him. We actually had to donate, I think it was £10,000 towards his medicine that the hospital wasn't funding. So we came in as the Azaylia Foundation and funded that. I went down to, his mum wasn't expecting me. I just did it as a surprise. But I did it for my soul. He'd got rushed into intensive care. He was on over 30 machines, or like lines that had been like connected to him, if I've got that right. And there was something that was aching me in my heart. I needed the child to wake up. I needed him to wake up. I went down into intensive care this one day, and I went into the room. And as I walked into the room, Mum was sat there. She wasn't expecting me. And she literally just looked at me, had gone out, and Yuraj was awake.
Wow.
He'd woke up from his coma. And she was like, oh my God, I haven't even announced it or told anybody. I can't believe that you're here. And honestly, I sat next to him and I said, like, I came here to, oh, it makes me feel sad. I came here to come and pray with you today. I brought Azaylia here with me, like through the car park and getting out, like, come on, Azaylia, like, let's go see Yuraj. Yeah. And we was in that same intensive care as well that Yuraj was. Yeah. And I sat beside him, like, and I held his hand and I said, I came to do my prayers with you, and look at you, you've surprised me, like, you're incredible, like, really, really gave him like so much love. And then carried on speaking to him, and he told me, I'm really sad because I haven't got no friends in school anymore. They don't know who I am. I've not eaten for 2 years. He was NG fed, the same as Azaylia, through his nose. Haven't eaten for 2 years. And I said, what would you really like? And I said, what was your favourite food? People get scared to talk about the things that people miss. And he said, Nando's. So I said, okay. I said,
that kid's getting a black card.
we all love a Nando's. And then he kept talking to me. His mum gave me a bunch of letters that the school had done. Yeah. All the kids had like written things for him and everything for hospital. Beautiful. And I said to him, I do a wet orange for Azaylia Day, Yuvraj. And he said, yeah, I'd love to have one of them at my school. And I said, I literally stared at him and I said, I promise you that I'm going to come to your school and all them kids are going to know how much of a hero you are. They have got a walking hero walking through their school. So I don't want you to feel different. And he was like, oh, my skin's all coming off. His pigment on his face had changed. He'd gone from he's got Asian background, and his skin colour had changed to white because of the engrafting from the donor. And he just felt so different. And I said to him, like, kindness, mutual support and inclusivity, that is my message through the school. I'm going to come in your school and do that. And I says, and I tell you what I'm going to do as well. After we've done that, we're going to go to Nando's. Fast forward him 6 months, we're in Yuraj's school. I'm doing the assembly and I took him for a Nando's straight after. Makes me feel sad. I can't believe I held myself together through that bit, but it was one of my proud moments through having the Azaylia Foundation and what we do as a foundation. And he said to me in the car, he turned to me because he come and jumped into my car. His mum had gone in her car and he said, I want to go with Safiyya. So he jumped in my car and he said, I just want to say to you, this chokes me, that I always look up at the sky and say thank you to Azaylia, because if it wasn't for Azaylia, I wouldn't have been able to have that medicine that helped save my life. And just them words alone. And he looked at me and he went, you are okay to cry, you know. I think I was so gulped by it, do you know what I mean? Because I was always used to being strong for like Azaylia and the children. It was just like, you can cry, you know, like it is okay to cry if you want to cry. And I said, I know it is. And he said, and I know that you're there and you're strong and brave like my mummy too. And I just thought, wow, this child is like 10 years old and having a maturer conversation than I have with some adults. Yeah. And I just want to say that people out there that are supporting the Azaylia Foundation, it's making a huge impact for these children. And there's children what we've helped as well. And we need to do more of this and updates on the Azaylia Foundation of what it is actually doing, socially. It's all going on in the background, but sometimes it's so exhausting making sure everything's done that socials is the last thing, that we're on. And we've got children that will come to us and say, for my birthday this year, I've asked all the family if they can give me money so I can donate it to the Azaylia Foundation because they helped me get that treatment, or they helped me raise that money for me to have X, Y, and Z. And the beauty that's just behind these innocent children, that they should not be having to do these kind of things, and their childhood is taken away from them, is just so heartbreaking, but it's so warm at the same time, because they're the children that are growing up in our society now to create a more diverse place, a more kind place, and a more inclusive place.
I know, like just hearing you tell that story there hits home for me, because I've I had to go back to school and I was a completely different person, and everybody only saw me for having a disability. I was treated very differently.
How old was you when you went back
I
into
was
school?
14 when I went back to school. I missed nearly a year out of school. So I was in Birmingham Children's Hospital for a long, long time. And then I went to Stoke Mandeville where I rehabbed, and I went to school actually in the hospitals as well. But when I went back to actually mainstream school, and I'm lucky I even got back there because they tried to send me to a special education needs school, and I didn't want to go there. I was like, I'm just physically disabled. I don't have, I don't have anything that's wrong unless it's affected my brain.
Your mental.
Yes, and my mum fought so hard for me to get back in. But
Good for her.
when I went back to school, people treated me different, and the kids knew me before. My friends that I had before, all of a sudden, as soon as I had that disability, it was like completely different. And so I know how it feels to be in that situation where people see you differently in this world because of something that has happened to you. Because my identity changed physically, people saw that and just thought, well, we don't need to treat her like a person anymore. And it's because of people like yourself. I've had people along the way that have come in to support me and help change the environment that I was in at school. And it's genuinely been the things that along the way have kept me going.
Good.
And kept me kept me through mainstream education. If I'd have continued on with the bullying, I probably would have gone, well, just send me to another school then because I can't deal with it here.
Yeah.
There's been the things that has led on to me having my GCSEs, getting my A-levels, going to university. There have been the things that have catapulted me into actually being able to cope with what had happened to me. And so I can't thank you enough of what you do in the foundation.
Look at your pain. Wow, it's incredible. The pain that you have turned into purpose as well is not just me sat here, but you sat here as well. And the fact that you've gone through your own journey, and just hearing you speak like that helps fuel me when I go into them schools, and I am bringing as much inclusivity as I can. I don't want any child to ever feel how you felt in school. And the fact that you are brave enough to go back into mainstream school, you should be. And it's the other people around that need to be kinder.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're going to wrap up on the podcast, but one thing I want to say before we close out, and I have got a closing tradition that we always do when I ask you a question, but I want to just say that being a child that has gone through trauma, or especially medical trauma like Azaylia did, you have no option but to fight. But the fight that you see in children like Azaylia speaks volumes to the person that she would have become. And I think that for me, I feel that within me, because she would have gone on to do, and still does, even now through what you are doing, incredible things. And please know that she would have gone on to do absolutely phenomenal things. And through her spirit and what you are now doing, you are carrying that forward. So when I say that is the living embodiment of what she would have done, it most definitely is.
Thank you.
And most definitely, even just seeing like the videos of her inspires me, because I've, been in them places where you feel scared, but, kids are resilient as well. It takes an extra special child to go through certain things. And I do think it comes out on the other side of it. It's kids like you've experienced there that want to give back and that want to help the world be a better place. And I just see that so much in this story, and I feel that within myself. And we have a closing tradition on this podcast because it is called Head Above Water. And it's called that because we go through tough times and we try somehow to keep our head above the water at all times. But there are certain tools and there are certain things that we all have that we equip into our toolbox that we use. And I like to ask people as we close out the show, what's that one thing that's kept your head above water, whether it be something, a tool that you've used, a way of thinking that's helped you get through those difficult times with Azaylia, and even now on the days where you struggle, gives you the motivation to go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep pushing forward.
Believing and Azaylia. I always sang When You Believe to Azaylia, and I always believe that you should always believe and stay true to who you are as a person. Azaylia carries me through my time now. She carries me through the days when I feel like I don't want to get up. I look around at her pictures and she inspires me every day to get up and take no weakness.
That's so beautiful. Like, before I start crying again on this podcast, I think we'll wrap it up. But thank you so much for you and Azaylia coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, and I hope everybody just felt what I felt in those words that you said, and take away a real strong message today that no matter how young you are, you have resilience within you, and that if you're going through journeys such as yourselves, like, listen to your story, go on your social media. I'm pretty sure even reach out to you because you're such an incredible person.
I do, honestly. I reply as much as I can to my DMs. I even go into my requests as well. Even my agents say to me, like, I think you're like the only person that goes in requests. I'm like, seriously, the amount of people that are suffering with their mental health, like, how can I not? How can I not help?
No, it is incredible. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you so much for coming on today.